There's a certain kind of fear that doesn't just make your heart race. It freezes you in place, makes the world shrink to a single, desperate moment. For most of us, the idea of being kidnapped is the stuff of nightmares, a plot reserved for movies or the darkest corners of the news. But for some, it's a reality that arrives without warning, turning the ordinary into a fight for survival. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true stories of people who escaped kidnapping attempts. Stories that prove courage, instinct, and a little bit of luck can make all the difference when the unthinkable happens. The first story begins on a quiet suburban street, the kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. Emily was 16, walking home from her friend's house just a few blocks away. It was early evening, the sun just starting to set, and the neighborhood was alive with the sounds of kids playing and dogs barking. She'd made the walk 100 times before, never once feeling unsafe. But that night, something felt off. She noticed a white van parked at the end of the street, engine running, windows tinted. She told herself it was nothing, just a delivery or a neighbor's guest. But as she passed, the van's door slid open, and a man stepped out, moving quickly toward her. Emily's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt heavy, her mind racing with panic. The man grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the van. She screamed, kicking and clawing, but he was strong, dragging her closer to the open door. In that split second, Emily remembered something her mom had told her. Never let them get you into the car. Fight with everything you have. She bit down on the man's hand as hard as she could, tasting blood, and he let go with a curse. Emily broke free, sprinting down the street, screaming for help. Porch lights flicked on, neighbors came running, and the van sped away, tires screeching. The police arrived within minutes, but the van was gone. Emily's story made the local news, a warning to parents and kids alike. She gave a statement describing the man and the van, and the police launched an investigation. They never caught the would-be kidnapper, but Emily's quick thinking and refusal to give up saved her life. She struggled with nightmares for months, jumping at every unexpected sound, but she refused to let fear control her. She started taking self-defense classes, speaking at local schools about what happened, determined to turn her trauma into something that could help others. Emily's story is a reminder that sometimes the difference between victim and survivor is a single, desperate act of resistance. The second story is about a man named Carlos, whose nightmare began on a business trip in a city he barely knew. Carlos was in his late 20s, working for a tech company, and had just finished a long day of meetings. He decided to walk back to his hotel, enjoying the cool night air and the unfamiliar sights of the city. The streets were busy, but as he turned down a side road to take a shortcut, the crowds thinned, and the city's energy faded into an uneasy quiet. Carlos noticed a group of men standing near a parked car, talking quietly. He felt their eyes on him as he passed, but kept his head down, walking faster. Suddenly, one of the men called out, asking for directions. Carlos hesitated, then turned to answer, not wanting to be rude. That's when 2 of the men grabbed him, one covering his mouth, the other twisting his arm behind his back. They tried to force him toward the car, their voices low and urgent, promising not to hurt him if he cooperated. Carlos's mind raced. He remembered reading that kidnappers often try to keep things quiet to avoid drawing attention. He knew his best chance was to make as much noise as possible. He kicked out, stomping on one man's foot, and managed to twist free just enough to scream. The sound echoed down the empty street, and a woman in a nearby apartment opened her window, shouting at the men to leave him alone. The kidnappers panicked, shoving Carlos to the ground and jumping into the car. They sped off, leaving Carlos bruised and shaken but alive. He called the police, who arrived quickly and took his statement. The woman who'd intervened gave a description of the car, and security cameras from a nearby store captured the men fleeing the scene. Carlos spent the rest of his trip in his hotel room, too afraid to go out alone. But he never forgot the lesson. Sometimes, the best weapon you have is your voice. He later reached out to the woman who'd helped him, thanking her for her courage. Her quick action and willingness to get involved made all the difference. The third story is about survival in the face of overwhelming odds. Mia was a college student, studying late at the library one night. She lost track of time, and by the time she packed up her things, the campus was nearly empty. She started walking to her car, parked in a dimly lit lot at the edge of campus. As she approached, she noticed a man leaning against a nearby car, watching her. He smiled, but there was something off about it. Too wide, too eager. Mia unlocked her car, glancing over her shoulder. The man started walking toward her, his steps quickening. She got into her car, locking the doors just as he reached her window. He knocked, asking if she needed help, but Mia shook her head, starting the engine. The man's smile faded, replaced by a look of frustration. He tried the door handle, then pounded on the window, shouting for her to open up. Mia's hands shook as she put the car in reverse, but she didn't hesitate. She floored the gas, backing out of the spot and speeding toward the exit. The man chased after her, but she didn't stop. She drove straight to the campus security office, heart racing, tears streaming down her face. The officers took her report, and when they checked the lot, the man and his car were gone. Mia's story spread quickly among her friends and classmates, a warning to never walk alone at night, to always trust your instincts. She started carrying pepper spray, taking self-defense classes, and making sure someone always knew where she was. The fear lingered, but so did the pride. She trusted her gut, acted quickly, and escaped a situation that could have ended very differently. Surviving a kidnapping attempt is more than just a moment of escape. It's a story that echoes through every part of your life. For Emily, Carlos, and Mia, the fear didn't end when they got away. It lingered in the quiet moments, in the way they checked over their shoulders, and in the way they locked their doors at night. But their stories are also about resilience, about the power of instinct, and about the unexpected ways that courage can surface when you need it most. Emily's life changed after that night on her suburban street. She found herself replaying the moment over and over, wondering what would have happened if she hadn't fought back, if she hadn't remembered her mother's words. The nightmares came in waves. Sometimes she'd wake up convinced she heard the van's engine outside her window, or that someone was lurking just beyond the porch light. But Emily refused to let fear define her. She started speaking at local schools, sharing her story with other teenagers, teaching them the importance of trusting their instincts and never being afraid to make noise. She became a voice for others who had survived similar experiences, and her courage inspired her community to take safety more seriously. Over time, the fear faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. Emily knew she'd faced the worst and survived, and that knowledge became her armor. Carlos, too, struggled with the aftermath of his escape. The city that had once seemed exciting and full of possibility now felt dangerous and unpredictable. He found himself avoiding side streets, keeping his phone in his hand, and scanning every crowd for familiar faces. But Carlos also found strength in the kindness of strangers. The woman who shouted from her window became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, someone might be watching, ready to help. Carlos reached out to her, and they stayed in touch, sharing stories and supporting each other. He started volunteering with a local neighborhood watch, determined to pay forward the help he'd received. The experience changed him, but it also made him more aware, more compassionate, and more determined to make a difference. Mia's story became a rallying cry on her college campus. Her friends organized late-night study groups so no one would have to walk to their car alone. The university improved lighting in the parking lots, increased security patrols, and offered self-defense workshops for students. Mia herself became an advocate for campus safety, speaking at orientation events and encouraging students to look out for each other. She still felt a jolt of fear every time she walked through a dark parking lot, but she refused to let it control her life. Instead, she used her experience to empower others, turning her fear into a force for good. What ties these stories together isn't just the terror of the moment, it's the way survival changes you. It's the realization that danger can come out of nowhere, that the world isn't always as safe as we want to believe. But it's also the discovery that you are stronger than you think, that you can fight back, that you can survive. For Emily, Carlos, and Mia, the escape was just the beginning. The real story was how they rebuilt their lives, how they found meaning in their fear, and how they used their experiences to help others. If you're listening to these stories and thinking, that could never happen to me, remember that every person in these stories thought the same thing. They were careful, they trusted their instincts, but danger still found them. The most important lesson is to be prepared, to trust your gut, and to never be afraid to ask for help. Whether it's a stranger on the street, a friend on the other end of the phone, or a neighbor watching from a window, help can come from the most unexpected places. And if you know someone who's survived something similar, listen to them. Believe their story, support their healing, and help them find their strength again. Survival isn't just about escaping the moment. It's about reclaiming your life, your confidence, and your sense of safety. As we come to the end of these stories, remember that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. Emily, Carlos, and Mia are survivors, not just victims. Their stories are a testament to the power of instinct, the importance of community, and the strength that comes from facing your worst fears and coming out the other side. Thank you for joining me on this journey through 3 true stories of people who escaped kidnapping attempts. If you have a story of your own, a moment when you trusted your instincts and it made all the difference, share it in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it, who might find comfort in knowing they're not alone. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that could happen to any of us.